Hi guys, my name is Tom Kendall Fitness and today's video is going to be about progressive overload. So, I've used the term progressive overload in a few of my previous videos and I'll be using it, I'll probably be using that term infinitely in future videos. So I thought I'd make a video explaining what progressive overload actually is. So, today we're going to be answering three questions. What is progressive overload? How can we apply progressive overload? And common misconceptions that you should try to avoid. So let's start off by defining the term progressive overload. Progressive overload is a method of strength training that advocates for the gradual increase of the stress placed upon the musculoskeletal and nervous system. And I want to kind of emphasize the word stress because we're going to be talking about how we can use that to our advantage further on in the video. So in layman's terms, it's gradually increasing the difficulty of your workouts over time, and that can be in weight training, whether that's for bodybuilding and powerlifting, and it can also be used in cardiovascular activities such as running. So if you're going to start running, you'd start off with like a 1 kilometer run and then 2, 3, 4, etc. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about it purely from a bodybuilding point of view, not to be confused with powerlifting, which I'm also going to delve into a bit because there is a lot of misinformation about bodybuilding out there that will actually get you doing powerlifting programs. So primarily, progressive overload is a form of training that can be used to prevent plateauing, which is where your body adapts to the exercises and the movements that you're doing. So an example would be doing 20 push-ups a day. If you've never done push-ups before, when you first start doing those push-ups, 20 push-ups is going to feel really, really difficult. However, after doing it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, it's probably going to start to feel a little bit easier, to the point where you can just do 20 push-ups in 20 seconds, really easy. But the point there is, because it's really easy, your muscles no longer have any stimulus to grow because you're just doing the same movement over and over again. And this is where kind of the concept of progressive overload comes back in. It's you have to give your muscles something new to do, something more difficult, so that it has the stimulus and it has a reason to grow. An important point, especially if you're into bodybuilding, is that this is a gradual process. So you have to trust in that process, even if you feel like it's not working. And the last point I'm going to make in this part of the video is that progressive overload is the safest way to weight train, as opposed to other weight training programs such as powerlifting, kind of weight targeted and focused training. By that I mean aiming to go up the weights instead of increasing volume alone, is really going to reduce the chance of injury. So, answering our second question, how can we apply progressive overload? The way that I want you to apply this process is very specific for my kind of training plan that I'm going to be explaining to you, but also very easy to follow and very effective for building muscle. So science has shown that hypertrophy, which is an increase and growth of muscle cells, is most prevalent in the 10 to 15 rep range. So this is going to be the area that we are working in. Now, the most important thing in this step is that you need to leave your ego at the door. So we're not going for the heaviest weight that you think you can lift. Find a weight for the exercise in your plan and for all the exercises in your plan as you go through your workout, and find a weight that you think you can lift for 15 reps in pretty good form. Not perfect form, you can struggle on the last few reps because we do want to be having intense workouts still and still struggling on those last few reps, because as we know, when it, like Arnie says, you know, when it starts to hurt, that's when you're actually tearing those muscle fibers. So with pretty good form up until the last few reps, pick a weight that you can do for 15 reps of 3 sets with 60 to 150 second rests in between, depending on how tiring the exercise is. So what I mean by that is 150 seconds, 2.5 minutes. That's the kind of rest I would use for like a compound lift, like a bench press or a squat or a deadlift, because they're very kind of taxing movements. But for something like a rear delt fly or a bicep curl or a tricep push down, those kind of isolation exercises, just 60 to 90 seconds for me will be enough, because we do want to keep high intensity during these workouts. Now, once you've completed 15 reps for 3 sets, so if you did the 15 reps for all 3 sets, then in the following session you can increase the weight by either going up to the next dumbbell, it's a dumbbell exercise, going up the next kind of hole on the cable machines, or if it's on the barbell, I'd say a good weight to increase by, especially if you're a beginner, is 2.5 kg, and then obviously as you become more advanced you'll go down to like the 1.5 and 1 kg plates, and then drop the reps to 10. And for those of you who don't complete the 15 reps for 3 sets, that is completely fine. Just drop the weight to a weight that you can do 15 reps for 3 sets, and then obviously after completing that, then you can move back up to the weight you originally were on and drop the reps to 10. And then in following sessions, after you've completed 10 reps, so the next session you do 11, then once you've completed that, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then we repeat the process by increasing the weight and dropping the reps. So as you can see, this type of training is not weight targeted. We're not looking to lift as heavy as we can. We're looking to make sure that we're staying in between the 10 and 15 rep range to kind of maximize the effect of hypertrophy and really grow our muscles, as opposed to kind of powerlifting, which is higher sets, lower reps, which is for strength. Now, there will come a point where you do inevitably plateau. So remember what I said earlier about the term stress in the definition for progressive overload being important. It's not about increasing reps or weight. We can use weight and reps like I've said previously. However, when you do plateau and you physically and what I would call a plateau is when you spend like 2 to 3, maybe even 4 workouts not being able to progress. Now, what I would say, if you do get to this point, make sure your nutrition is in order, so make sure you're eating enough protein, and maybe if not already, try taking a stimulant like a pre-workout before a session, and that could help you get that extra rep in. However, if you've tried all of that and you're still plateauing, to increase the stress, basically what we're going to do is just swap out the exercise for an exercise that hits the same muscle but is a different exercise. So for example, if you plateau on the dumbbell chest press, you would then swap that out for maybe a barbell chest press, or like cable chest flies, or something like that. So, or better option, the machine press. So instead of increasing the weight or the reps, because we can't do that anymore on that particular exercise, we're switching up the type of tension applied on the muscle, which will continue that hypertrophy. However, don't go crazy and do any kind of weird exercises. Make sure you stick into the targeted muscle group. Now, moving on to the third part of this video, which is misconceptions to do with progressive overload and bodybuilding. Lots of people try and sell you powerlifting. So a common kind of phrase is, if you can lift 8, increase the weight. And I used to follow this kind of philosophy where if you can do 8 reps, increase the weight. This is obviously still going to build your muscle, just it's going to focus more on the strength side of things, and you will end up just getting to the point where you're doing like 4 reps of a really high weight, and it's just not going to be that effective for building muscle. Another thing is, when I said you got to leave your ego at the door, you really do have to do that. A lot of guys like to compare their bench press PRs. I see when I go to uni, the guys are always comparing how much they bench, but they're all really skinny or really fat. And sometimes you think, God, he's way skinnier than me. How does he bench more than me? Well, that's because he's training for strength rather than building muscle. So just remember what your target is. Remember, you're doing a bodybuilding program, you're trying to build muscle, not strength. So don't feel bad if there's guys that are smaller than you, or I guess you're not going to feel bad about the guys that are fatter than you, that can lift more. So that's all I've really got to tell you about progressive overload. I'm not an expert in this subject, but this is my understanding of it, and hopefully this will help you achieve your bodybuilding goals to kind of build a nice aesthetic physique. But anyway, this has been Tom Kendall Fitness. Hope this video was helpful. Like and subscribe. My Instagram, my daily timetable is in the description. I'll see you in the next one.